Hey, Copper Canyon Algebra 2, it's Miss Castro again. So we are still working on 9.2 radian measure, but this time I'm going to go through some examples that are on Edgenuity. I think most of them are pretty self-explanatory, but mainly want to show you guys or remind you guys how to properly use Desmos. Also reminding you guys that when you're doing your assignments and your quizzes, you should have a blank piece of paper, you should have a pen or a pencil to write with, and you should have a calculator of some sort, whether it's a basic calculator on your cell phone or have Desmos open so that you guys can do these conversions without mistakes. You shouldn't be doing all these things in your head. You should be writing it down so you don't have a lot to keep in your head. That's probably the main reason a lot of you are not doing well on quizzes and assignments the first time out. So take my advice, paper, pencil, and some sort of calculator, okay? All right, so really quick, just two examples. So the first one is something very typical that you probably ran into already. So converting, we talked about radian measures and degrees, how they can be met. They're basically two different ways to measure an angle. And so just talking about how to do the conversions. So converting this radian measure, 7 pi over 6, this is already in radians. Main reason you know it's in radians is because look, it's got pi on it. Degrees don't have pi on them, so we already know that that 7 pi over 6, that's got to be a radian measure. Not only that, look at the end, they say convert it to degrees. So this is a big hint that we're going to degrees with this. So let's go ahead and set it up. So we're starting with 7 pi over 6. Okay, now here's the thing. When you guys are converting, you need something to convert to. What's something that you definitely know in comparison? How can you compare radians and degrees together? We talked about this on the last YouTube video. Just like you know 12 inches are in a foot, what do you know about radians and degrees? So kind of going back to vocabulary and some things we talked about last time. Radian measures. We learned on our last, maybe in Edgenuity or just on the last YouTube video, 180 degrees is exactly pi in radians. Okay, so we're using that conversion, 180 and pi. So we're going to go ahead and use this. We're going to set it up as a proportion. So in terms of comparing. Now, when we do comparisons here, we already know we're going to have 180 on one top of this fraction and pi on the other. The question is, where are you going to put what? Now, we're trying to get this answer into degrees, right? So our final answer needs to come out with some sort of degree answer, which means it should not have any radians on it, correct? So think about it. Where are we going to put that pi so that the pi's cancel out? Well, look at this. 7 pi. Pi is on the top of this fraction here on the beginning of the radian measure. So if you want to get rid of that pi, you've got to put it on the opposite side. So you want these pi's to cross off? You're going to have to put pi down here on the bottom, and you're going to have to put the 180 on the top. So this is something to keep in mind as you're doing your conversions. If you're going to degrees, you want the pi's to cross off. They shouldn't be there. Degrees should not have a pi on the answer. So we have to make sure that they're going to cross off. That's how we do it. So once you guys do that, I suggest that you actually scribble them out. This is, again, why you need paper, writing it down for yourself at the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and scribble this out. And so what we're really going to type into our calculator or into Desmos is what's left. So we really have 7 over 6 times 180, okay? So again, you want to go to Desmos, go to a calculator of some sort and type that in. I'm going to go ahead and do a clip it here, so let's go to Desmos now and type that in and see what we get from there. All right, guys, so here we are on Desmos. So again, remember, we're typing 7 over 6 times 180. So just remember, so we're going to do 7. To get a fraction, it's just dividing, so division, and you put 6. Now remember, you want to make sure that you get your cursor to the end of the fraction so it doesn't hang on to it. So 7 over 6 times, and it was 180. So times 180, here we go. Voila, and there it is, 210. So 210 degrees is what we got. All right, so we typed it into Desmos, and we got 210 degrees. So that is our answer. 7 pi over 6 radians is equivalent to 210 degrees. Boom, done. No pi on it. It's a nice answer. You know, you could end up getting decimal answers for your degrees, but you should not have a pi left on the end of it. So if your pi's are not canceling out on your problem, you have set your 180 and your pi in the wrong locations, okay? So keep that in mind as you do your conversions. So this one was going from a radian measure to degrees. We got 210. Let's try it the other way around. What is 300 degrees in radians? All right, so we already have it in degrees, and this is typically what the problem we're faced with. We already are pretty good with how much a degree is, but now we have to convert it to that hard convert radians. You know, that's the one that we're having trouble understanding. So again, make sure you're aware where you're trying to go with this and what is your answer going to look like. Okay, so we already have 300 degrees. Okay, what we want to do is multiply this by the conversion. Same thing we set it up with there. Now, here's the thing. We already know we're going to have to use a 180 and a pi, but where we put the 180 and the pi is key here. Now, we want pi in our answer on this one. So when we're done here, we want an answer with a pi on it somewhere, right? We're going to radians. So this time we don't want the pi to cross off. There's nothing for it to cross off here, but we want the pi to be on the top. So when you're going to radians, you always want to put your pi on the top because pi should be on the top. That's the way you're always going to get your radians presented to you. Notice pi will always be on the top. Sometimes they put the pi sign behind the fraction. It still represents the top. It's getting multiplied by it. So for that reason, we're doing pi on top and 180 on the bottom this time. Okay? Now, tip to you. When you go to decimals or your calculator, don't put the pi in the calculator, because if you put pi in there, it's going to calculate out the pi. But we just wanted to stay with the pi answer on it. So yes, this is important, but this is just going to automatically become part of the problem. Here's why I'm saying that. When we go to do the work on our calculator right now, this is actually what we want to type into our calculator. 300, because that's our original degree, times, we don't want to put the pi in there. We just want to divide by 180. Now, when you go to your calculator, again, there's lots of ways to do it, but don't put pi. Technically, there's an invisible 1 here, right? So you're going to do 300 times 1 over 180. And that's actually what you're going to type into your calculator. 300 times the fraction 1 over 180, okay? So let's take a second here, go to decimals, type that in, see what we get. Also reminding you guys about some key things on decimals. All right, guys, so here we are on decimals again. So we're typing 300. So 300 times, and the fraction we ended up with, remember, we're not putting the pi on this. We're doing 1 over 80, or 1 over 180. So here we go, 1, hit the division sign. Remember, the division sign is the easy way to get a fraction for us, and that's exactly where we want it, 180. Okay, so that's what it looks like here on decimals. Now, issue. You got a decimal, 1.667 repeating, right? Now, remember, we don't want that decimal there. We want fraction, because more than likely your answer on your quiz is going to be in fraction form. So remember over here, this little button here, it's got a little fraction on it. If you hit that, voila, converts your decimal to a fraction. So really what we're going to write is 5 pi over 3.